President Trump traveled to the U.S.-Mexico border today. He wanted to draw attention to what he considers to be one of his administration's successes, completing more than 400 miles of the border wall over the past 4 years. Civil rights organizations are gathered there to condemn the president's visit and his administration's immigration policies. Former Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development and former mayor of San Antonio, Julian Castro, was one of the leaders there today, and he joins us live from the Rio Grande Valley. Very good to have you with us, Secretary Castro. And let me ask you, President Trump traveled to the border there. He wanted to brag on his immigration policies, didn't he, and the work done on the border wall. Take a listen to the president today.
Success story. When I took office, we inherited a broken, dysfunctional, and open border. Everybody was pouring in at will, working alongside the heroes in this great outdoor space, looking at our wall. We reformed our immigration system and achieved the most secure southern border in U.S. history. It is at a level that it's never been before. We took on the cartels, the coyotes, and the special interests, and we restored the rule of law.
So that's President Trump today. Secretary Castro, he has changed the policy and politics of the border during the presidency. What's the reaction there on the border, particularly in the Latino community, to what this administration has accomplished or not?
Well, it's not surprising that Donald Trump made a visit to the border today. You know, he started his campaign in 2015, of course, at his announcement by calling immigrants from Mexico rapists and criminals. And every time he's gotten into political hot water, when he feels like he's losing his grip, perhaps, on conservatives, he goes back to his red meat issue, which is to demonize, to otherize, to scapegoat immigrants, to scapegoat brown people. And that's what he's doing today. He's trying to stir that up one more time. The other thing that's consistent about him is that he continues to lie. You know, he's touting that there are 450 miles of border wall that have been built up during his administration. A CBP study found that actually only 30 miles of new fencing or wall has been built. And so just like Mexico didn't pay for the wall, even though he promised it, he hardly got anything done, even by, his own standards. This is a president who has failed. The only thing that he has accomplished is that instead of building up a great wall around us, he's built up a wall between us, American to American, family member to family member. He's polarized this country like never before.
President Trump denying now any responsibility for inciting violence at the Capitol. Today, he's calling his speech to the rally that they, quote, appropriate. So during his time in office, do you think President Trump's rhetoric has raised the risk of violence, political violence, in our country?
Well, there's no question about that. I think back to the murder of 22 people at a Walmart in El Paso in August of 2019. A man drove 10 hours to gun down mostly Mexicans and Mexican Americans. He said that he was inspired by the rhetoric of President Trump. And what we saw on January 6th at the Capitol was just one more example of that. This president has incited violence, incited insurrection last week. And again, consistently, he fails to take any kind of responsibility for his actions or his words. He's a failed president. He has 8 or 9 days left. And fortunately, we're going to get a president in Joe Biden who's actually a man of character, who will keep his word, who I think is going to do everything that he can to try and unify the country instead of divide it, and be a president for all people, not just some people.
Well, unfortunately, there are now some new security threats in all 50 states after last week's attempted insurrection. A former mayor, given your experience as a former mayor, how should cities be preparing for this coming week?
It's becoming clear that the FBI, for instance, had warned the Capitol Police about the danger of violence last week. They were overwhelmed. The D.C. police were overwhelmed. The National Guard did not get there in time. So last week was perhaps a textbook example of everything that can go wrong. And local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and federal law enforcement have the opportunity now to make sure that there's amazing and tremendous coordination among those agencies to protect these state capitals. And our support is with that effort. I don't think anybody has a problem with people peacefully demonstrating, expressing their views. That's what happened last summer with Black Lives Matter. The vast, vast majority of those were peaceful demonstrators who were simply asking for equality in this country. But what we saw the other day and what's threatened for a few days from now at the state capitals is very different. People bringing assault weapons, threatening violence, talking about overthrowing our government. Yeah. Every local law enforcement, state and federal law enforcement needs to be in on the coordination this time.
And Secretary, finally, you served in the Obama administration, of course, ran for president, and your brother's now in the House of Representatives. We're talking about accountability here. There's a momentous question before the country right now. Do you think Democrats should be pushing ahead with impeachment, given that there's only 8 or 9 days left in President Trump's administration?
Yes, I do. The reason for that is that Donald Trump did something that is unprecedented, that disqualifies him from serving not only as president, but as my brother said yesterday, even as a school board member anywhere in this country. He incited an insurrection against the government of the United States, against a peaceful transition of power that undergirds our very democracy. He's threatened our democracy by doing that. And it doesn't matter whether there are 8 days left or there had been 800 days left in his term. You need to stamp that into history for future leaders as something that will not be tolerated, that there will be consequences for. If we don't do that, we risk sending a message to future leaders of this country, megalomaniacs who may be in the mold of Donald Trump, that it's okay to try and steal an election through force. And you send a signal to countries around the world that America is declining, that our democracy is not nearly what it once was, and perhaps we're more vulnerable in the future because of that. So yes, we need to move forward with impeachment.
All right. Serious question. Julian Castro, good to see you. Thanks very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.